All right, now we're recording. Thank you, Mary. This is week number 5, Sensation and Perception. And here are your learning objectives for this week. Thankfully, there are not 104 study guide questions for this chapter. That was a little over the top last week, I think. Was that over the top? That was a lot of work. The ones I've seen, though, you guys have done a good job on those. So, welcome, Brent. Thanks for coming. Our topic, this chapter, is, now you've got your learning objectives over there on the one side. And your learning objectives are about how sensation is a part of what we talked about last week. Remember, we talked last week about how wonderful and marvelously created our brains were, the nervous system was. And we gave a passing glance to the sensory system, that part of the nervous system that is responsible for bringing information from the outside world to our brain. It's pretty important, right? I mean, if your brain, Stephanie, should come into direct contact with the world, you're in a world of hurt, right? You should have been wearing your helmet, or you're getting some kind of brain surgery. Our brain doesn't experience the world directly. It relies on sensory input from the world in order for it to perceive the world. And that's the other part of the chapter title. It's sensation and perception. They're not the same. They're very closely related. But not the same. In fact, I'm not really a fan of the way I organized the book, putting the sensory system with the perception. And the reason I think they need to stay apart is that, one, sensation, that's neurological. That's neurons. Sensations are, by definition, the neurological experience of the world. It's neurons firing. But perception, that's about understanding. Perception, that's about meaning. That's about interpretation. Let me show you, I got a question for you. There's your learning objectives. And here's a photograph of the lower falls of the Yellowstone River. Have you ever seen that? In the winter. I worked there one winter, gave tours. I have a question for you guys. What is the most amazing thing that you've ever seen in your life? I used to say this was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen in my life until I saw the total solar eclipse. We live near that path of totality. What was it, summer before last? I should put up an eclipse photograph. The Grand Canyon, yes, that is a beautiful thing. Everybody, what's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen, the most memorable sight of your life? And students in the past have said things like life, being born, double rainbows, a ballet, a meteor shower. Yeah, Zion. I was in Zion this spring and saw some of those slot canyons, zebra slot canyon. Amazing, beautiful. And as you remember, as you think about this most amazing thing, I wonder, can you remember details? Can you remember the smells and the sounds and your feelings? I can. I remember the ground shook, that waterfall, and it's like I could smell cold. It was so cold. It was like I could smell it. And the sound was deafening, and I was moved. You know, I wanted to cry. It was so beautiful. You know what I'm talking about? That's perception. So we can talk about these two things, and one of them I want to call low or common. And we're going to talk about a lot of topics going forward in terms of the low and the high. The low being common, the low being things that we share with animals, because there might have been a bald eagle flying overhead there at the Grand Canyon, and his sensory systems, he probably could have seen a trout in the river or heard a little mouse squeak under the snow. So we share this sensory system with the animals, and in that sense, it's common. But the other side, the perception, the understanding, the beauty, the wonder, what we make of those sensory inputs, that's high. That's unique. That's, dare I say, part of our godlikeness.